Any moment that lets you just sit back, relax, and enjoy even 1 second of the day to yourself and taste like pumpkins, that's a moment to look forward to. The McCafe Pumpkin Spice Latte is back. Get a $2 small hot or iced for a limited time. Or try one of our other freshly brewed espresso drinks. From iced caramel macchiatos to caramel frappes to hot mochas to every sweet treat in between. Only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary.
Where entertaining meets informative.
This show makes the listener feel like it's my show.
You make bad news sound good.
Mark K for 3 hours a day. Loving it!
This is the Mark K Show.
This is the Mark K Show. My name is Mark K. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. And a couple of things. First of all, happy birthday to Super Governor Ron DeSantis, who celebrates, well, his birthday today, because that's what you do when it's your birthday. But also, I hate to have to be the one to tell him this, but he was dead wrong. Dead wrong. Joe, I'll be honest, I never thought I would ever say this on the radio, and especially when we celebrate his birthday, but the man was dead wrong yesterday when he was at his press conference speaking about Joe Biden's mandates. Ron DeSantis getting up in front of the podium and talking against what Joe Biden was mandating for federal workers. And anyway, he gets up there. He was dead wrong. Ron DeSantis, huge mistake when he said this.
It's great to be here. I was in town earlier this morning, actually, over at the university. The University of Florida is now the 5th highest rated public university in the country. Pretty good. Now, if you can only cap the week off by beating Alabama this Sunday, then everything would be good in the world.
No, it's not Sunday. It's Saturday. You're dead wrong. It's a big game. Gators, Crimson Tide, Saturday afternoon, not Sunday. Sunday is when this belongs to the pro teams. Saturday is for college ball. We all know that, Governor. Otherwise, everything you said was right on the money. That's the only thing I could argue with. Everything else that came out of the man's mouth was, it was almost as if George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison had come back from the dead and taken the podium in Tallahassee to tell Joe Biden to go stick it up his socialist where. Stick it where the socialist sun don't shine, which is tough to say. But we'll get to that here in just a minute. Also, speaking about people who were wrong, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, who is in charge of, or was in charge of, the most botched military assignment in history, the most botched withdrawal, and one of the deadliest things to happen to our American military in Afghanistan in a very long time. This guy has been on Capitol Hill now getting grilled by senators yesterday. He's back there today. In fact, he's back there live right now being questioned. We just heard Mitt Romney actually ask him a fairly decent question. We'll bring you that here in just a minute. And Marco Rubio, who has been, he's been anti-Blinken, anti-pull out of Afghanistan. He's known this is the mistake of the century for a long time. And he lit into him just earlier this morning, talking about how this is not just ignorance. This is just having the wrong people in the wrong place.
So I think this leaves us in a terrible situation. But I go back to the initial point. I don't know how it's possible. If in fact, the people in charge of our foreign policy did not see all of these factors and conclude that there was a very real possibility of a very rapid collapse, then we've got the wrong people making military and diplomacy decisions in our government.
I could have told you that. I could have told you that on November 4th. That we all know. Anytime Joe Biden is in charge of the government, you've got the wrong people in charge of the government. Anytime you've got Democrats trying to make policy decisions, anytime you've got woke generals out there commanding real troops, it's a recipe for disaster, as we've seen. And Marco Rubio suggests something that I think a lot of people maybe knew around Washington, D.C. I think a lot of people in the administration knew this and were planning on this. And the reason August 31st was chosen arbitrarily as the new date was because it had historical significance. Marco Rubio is the first one, though, I've heard really say it out loud.
If we didn't have an analysis that looked at all this, this wasn't a failure of intelligence. This was a failure of policy and planning. We have the wrong people analyzing this. Someone didn't see this. Either someone didn't see this or someone didn't want to see this because we had established this. We wanted to be out by September 11th so that we could have some ceremony arguing that we got and pulled out of Afghanistan on the anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, look at that. Doesn't that make a whole heck of a lot of sense? Joe Biden wants to pull out on August 31st, not because it's the right thing to do, not because it gives the military enough time, not because of some arbitrary date or because of the Taliban or this, that, and the other. He did it because he wanted to have a big celebration on September 11th and say, I got us out of Afghanistan and we minimized the threat and blah, blah, bliggity, blah. But instead, on September 11th, he was standing there talking about why there were F Joe Biden signs lining the roadway as he was making his way to the memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, site of the United 93 crash. So Joe Biden, miscalculated this because he and whoever his staff members were that thought this would be great. This would be a great opportunity for pomp and circumstance to celebrate the 20th or to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and again in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, which could have been an attack on the Capitol, a much deadlier attack if it weren't for the American heroes on board. Because of that, Joe Biden botched this whole thing, left Americans behind enemy lines. There's still hostages there. And 13 American men and women who dedicated their lives to this country's service were killed unnecessarily. And that's all because Joe Biden wanted to look cool on September 11th, 2021. I'll tell you, look, if you want to look cool, just put on your shades, but don't try to pretend like you know what you're doing with foreign policy, because you don't. And we know that this date was arbitrary. There was no in fact, Mitt Romney, I'll pull that up here in just a minute. Mitt Romney said this was not Donald Trump's date. This was your date. You guys picked it. You guys picked it. It could have been September 30th. It could have been November 1st. If you needed more time, you should have given it more time. But the fact is that nobody was prepared for any of this stuff. Nobody was prepared for anything. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on. He's talking right now. He's getting grilled all day today. And the ridiculous thing is the guy has no answers. All he keeps saying over and over again is, well, we didn't know that the Afghan security forces were going to just collapse. We didn't know the Afghan security forces were going to just put down their weapons and walk away. We didn't know. They didn't know anything. Look, it's really your job to know who you're dealing with. The Afghan security forces, they're not some nondescript, far-out, group of dudes in the desert who just threw up a website or made a Facebook group and said, let's call ourselves the Afghan military force. No. They were an army of 300,000 people that have been armed and trained and worked with the United States government for the last 20 years. This is a military organization. This is someone that we've had close ties with. This is someone we worked with. That $85 million worth or $1 billion worth of equipment, that wasn't for the Taliban. They have it now, but it was for the Afghans to protect themselves. And the fact that Anthony Blinken didn't know that they were gonna do this, that they weren't prepared to fight. The fact that Joe Biden had no intelligence saying these guys are wusses. First sign of trouble, they're gonna be on their camels and they're gonna be making a run for Turkmenistan. They didn't have that intelligence, and they didn't have any intelligence. They have zero intelligence basically in the Joe Biden administration, and that's what we're learning today. All they want to do is continue to blame other people. Now, in addition to that, as I said before, we have Ron DeSantis, who is slapping back at Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who yesterday, or rather last week, mandated and continues to double down on these mandates for federal workers and federal employees, and who continues to try to demonize governors who are doing his own job. Look, if you're the president of the United States, your job is to protect the Constitution of the United States of America, not slowly put it into a massive paper shredder and watch it get turned into confetti. That's not in the oath of office. That's not what you're supposed to do. President is supposed to guard and protect the Constitution of the United States of America. Joe Biden is not doing that. So governors in Florida, in Texas, governors in Oklahoma, governors in South Dakota, governors all over, the Southeast and Southwest at least, and maybe a couple places up north, they're doing that. They're stepping in to fill the void. Joe Biden, he's a void. Man, that guy, and I'm not just talking about the space between his ears, that guy is a void of leadership. And that not only is it a void of leadership, but he's like a negative president. He's whatever a president's supposed to be, pushing for freedom, protecting citizens, making intelligent decisions, making sure that your liberties are not taken advantage of, while also keeping you safe from all enemies, foreign and domestic. This guy does the exact opposite of all of that. And the governors, and this is, the silver lining, if you will, the governors are stepping up. The governors are stepping up, and they are taking the form of mini presidents all over the country. And they are saying, look, here's what I can do as governor of my state. Here's what I can do for people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here's what I can do for people in Oklahoma City. Here's what I can do for citizens in Houston and Austin. Here's how I can build a wall along the Texas border because I'm the governor. I can't do it for California and Arizona and New Mexico, though. They have they're on their own. Here in Florida, we can make sure that people don't get fired if they don't get a vaccine. We can make sure that federal workers are safe from these vindictive and political pushes that Joe Biden is making that are not based in science whatsoever. We can do all of that. We can make sure there are no vaccine passports in our state. We just can't do it nationwide. And as a result, what you're seeing is happy, healthy, productive, financially sound Floridians and Oklahomans and Texans and wherever else you go, and the rest of the country looking on in disgust and in awe and with jealousy, and eventually just packing up and making their way to one of those big, beautiful red states where freedom still lives because the governors are doing the job that the president refuses to do. Anyway, we'll have more of that. Also, AOC, man, is this woman stupid? I mean, I don't know. And I know you're not supposed to call anybody stupid. I know you're not supposed to call anybody stupid, but I just, I need to be honest with, that's the thing. I come in here every day and I say, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what's going on in the world. I'm going to try to keep it light. I'm going to try to make it entertaining. I want you to leave this show feeling better about yourself. I know that there's a lot of things that worry you and trouble you, and you wake up in the morning and you see the idiocy coming out of Washington, and you see how the Democrats are trying to tax you into oblivion and just grab power without any Republican support, and you see what they're doing to our borders and to our military and to our foreign relations and to our country, really, and to your personal and individual freedoms. And then on top of all that, you got to stop at the gas pump and go, holy hell, $3 a gallon? What WTF? And I know that at the end of the day, you could feel really bad about yourself. So we try to keep it lighthearted here. And we don't try to make enemies. We don't try to belittle anybody. But sometimes somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just does something so ridiculously stupid or says something so ridiculously inane and moronic that you just got to, because we also got to keep it real. And the reality is, this is one of the dumbest women who's ever walked the face of the earth. We'll tell you what she did here in just a minute. We've got Hideous and Horrific History with Hannah Hickox coming up today. American Trivia Warrior, where I will try to defend my title as the Trivia Award winner of the week. We've got some other fantastic, it shouldn't be too hard. We've got some other fantastic games, I'm sure, and giveaways. We've got information about fake vaccine cards and real vaccine passports that you need to know about. Plus, I don't even know what, we have so much to do and so little time to do it. Quick break, your phone calls, your open mic messages, and more of the Mark Kaye Show coming up right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you the most talented feller this side of the Smoky Mountains. He puts the shine in moonshine. He puts the gut in rot gut. The most root-tootin'est, gator-slinging old boy you ever had the chance to witness. I bring to you Bluegrass Boy.
How y'all doing? Y'all ready? Yeah. Hey, we got some new band members today playing the old brown jug. We got...
Sound like you're spitting some tobacco.
Yeah. Josh McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for him. He eat one time. And on the duck call, the one and only, the prettiest little idiot you ever done seen, Ms. Hannah Hickox. Give it up one time. Are y'all ready?
So ready?
Here we go. I like to watch the news each day and sing and play banjo. I'll tell you all the stuff about the things you ought to know. I'm the only news reporter in the world who plays bluegrass. And if you think this bit is stupid, well, then you can kiss my... Turned on the TV, wanted to watch some college ball. Saw every seat was filled, but not a single mask at all. Before the game, they all started chanting in unison. 50,000 people all yelling, F Joe Biden. When it comes to vaccinations, Joe Biden is obsessed. Until every American is vaxxed, he will not rest. If you refuse the vaccine, that'll make Joe real pissed. And he'll tell your boss to fire your ass if you try to resist. Joe Biden is the president, but acts more like a king. Signing executive orders for damn near everything. When he cannot figure out how to do his job, mandates are his solution. And when he takes a crap, he wipes up with the Constitution.
Mark, you're crazy. I love this show.
That was really,
All right.
that was really good. I had no idea, Josh, that you blew a mean jug, man.
He
What
did.
can I say? YouTube can show a man some things.
Is that you learned it on YouTube, huh?
That's what I said.
And Hannah, on that, I didn't know you were such a. I mean, I know you married a kind of an outdoorsy guy.
Yeah.
And you got yourself a couple pairs of cowboy boots, but that was great duck calling right there.
Well, thank you. I played it twice.
That was really fantastic. Nicely done. Yeah, we always love when we get visits from Bluegrass Boy, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you guys. Being big fans of. He's got to go back to the mountains now because moonshine don't make itself. And someone's got to be there to mash the
And distill it.
corn and make sure
and
the
drip.
distillery and chase the cops
And
away.
wait
and
for the full moon.
Right,
Yep.
and then put it in the back of the car and, moon, what is it, rum runner it? No, that's pirates. Moonshine, what are the moonshiners called?
NASCAR racers.
Bootleggers?
Oh, bootleggers.
I don't know
Bootleggers.
what. They got to get it to wherever the moonshine goes. But we'll have another visit from Bluegrass Boy here in just a minute. And by the way, everything that he said, everything that he's saying about is 100% accurate when it comes to Joe Biden and these mandates. You've got the people at the football games yelling F Joe Biden, and it's no coincidence that they're doing that just 2 days after he said, number one, we want all you venue people, all you people that run these sporting events and these facilities to mandate vaccines, and then we want all you federal workers vaccinated. We're not going to take no for an answer. Plus, if you work for a private company, which you're either working for a public company or you're working for a private company or you're working for yourself, he wants everybody to get this vaccine. And if you work at a place that has more than 100 employees, he wants your employer to mandate that too. And as soon as that happened, 2 days later, every single NFL and college stadium was filled and people were chanting F Joe Biden. And Ron DeSantis here in Florida wasn't specifically using those words, but he had some ideas of his own how he could, not literally F Joe Biden, but figuratively F Joe Biden, and at the same time stop screwing over Floridians. And we'll tell you all about that here in just a minute. Quick break. More of the Mark Kaye Show continues right after this.
Hey, Mark Kaye, do you know where Corn Pop is? Because I think he would be a better president than Joe Biden. Do you know why? Corn Pop was a bad dude.
I'll tell you what, if Joe Biden thought Corn Pop was a bad dude, maybe he was a great person. Maybe, because Joe Biden ain't the best people in the world either. So if he's like, Corn Pop's a bad dude, you know what he does? That Corn Pop, he goes to church and he actually believes what they say. He practices what he preaches. That Corn Pop, you know what he likes? Freedom, liberty. Can you believe that guy? He thinks that borders should be enforced. He thinks that hypocrisy is bad. Oh, that Corn Pop, man, he's a bad dude. He'll never make a good politician. 855-940-6275.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Oh, that's what we need too, some bad boys, because if Corn Pop's boys were bad, what are Joe Biden's? What's Anthony Blinken? What is Ron Klain? What's Mark Milley? What are all these people? Are those good people? Good at what? That's the question we're trying to find out right now on Capitol Hill. Anthony Blinken is being grilled by Congress. It's half of Congress. The Democrats are actually going easy on him, which is kind of pathetic because nobody should be going easy on Anthony Blinken. Nobody should be going easy on Joe Biden and this debacle in Afghanistan. But they are because, it's all about party before country is what their motto is. Party before country. And I don't mean the kind of party that AOC went to in a $2,000 dress where you need $30,000 to get in. We'll get to that in just a minute. I mean the political party. And the Democrats, they will put their party above everything else. They will put their party above their country, their constitution, their constituents, really anything that begins with a C and is important to the rest of us. They don't care. It's party first, party politics, because they know that their politics is not popular. The only way they can stay in power is by sticking together and railroading everybody. It's what's happening right now in the Senate this week with Joe Manchin and this Democrat reconciliation bill. They know that it's not popular. $3.5 trillion on top of the $1.9 trillion they already got. That's not popular with the American people. Nobody wants to pay for that, especially when they realize what stupid, idiotic things it's being used to spend money on. Really, it's just paying back all of their really kooky environmentalist, rich wacko friends who got them into office anyway. Now they've got to write some checks, and they don't have the money because they're Democrats. They hate capitalism. They've been spreading the money around all this time, so they've got to go out and get it from you. And they know that the Republicans are going to stop them because Republicans are like, that's ridiculous. Every single one of the 50 Republicans can agree that this is an overreach when it comes to government spending. Every one of them. You had 7 Republicans that wanted to throw Donald Trump out on his butt, but all 50 Republicans currently in the Senate can all agree, yes, this is insanity, and we're not going to let it happen. So the Democrats are trying to scrape together the 50 votes plus 1 with Kamala Harris that they need to pass this reconciliation bill. And luckily, as it stands right now, Joe Manchin does not stand with them. Kirsten Sinema, we're not really sure where she is either, but this is how the Democrats play. It's party first, and I don't even think country's second. I think it's like party first, and then my deadbeat son or whatever deadbeat relative. If you're a politician in the Democrat Party, you always have one deadbeat relative that you have to protect, and then your country comes like third or fourth, maybe after your college, whatever. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. All right, so speaking of college, let's talk a little bit about Ron DeSantis, who was in Tallahassee the other day. Today, by the way, is his birthday. Happy birthday, Super Governor DeSantis. We're very excited for you. We extended an invitation for Governor DeSantis to come on the show, and we had some presents for him. We were going to bake a cake. We're going to do some like Jaeger bombs, or I don't even know. I don't know what you do on your birthday, but maybe get some goodie bags, whatever. But he obviously had other plans with his wife and kids, or maybe trying to beat back communism. That's another thing that keeps him busy these days. Anyway, but yesterday he was in Tallahassee and he was talking all about all kinds of things. And one of the things that came up, of course, was Joe Biden's dictatorial and tyrannical mandates on federal workers. Not only federal workers, but on private sector workers, because he's getting the Labor Department and OSHA to mandate that anybody who employs 100 or more people also tells those 100 and more people, you must get vaccinated or get tested every week or hit the highway. He never even really gave the third option, but I think that's implied. It's get vaccinated or get tested every week or hit the road, Jack. And let's see how high we can really drum up these unemployment. These unemployment numbers just weren't high enough. Let's figure out another way to get people to want to quit their jobs and stay at home and collect government benefits. I think they've found a pretty good one here. And Ron DeSantis is out there and he's talking about how, first of all, this is not constitutional, which should be the end of the discussion. But when it comes to the Democrats, it never is.
This is not constitutional, what he's doing. Everyone in his administration for 9 months said they don't have the ability to do this, that shouldn't be mandated. And that includes Fauci has said that in the past. They've always said that. So they're issuing this mandate for private sector employees, but also for all federal employees. But they're exempting the post office.
Yeah, they're exempting the post office. So if you're a postal employee, and the post office, that's a lot of people. It's also a federal it's federal employees. And for some reason, the post office doesn't have to go by these mandates. I'll tell you why. Because the postal union is very large and very powerful. And the postal union makes a lot of money in dues. And the postal union, I guarantee, had a phone call to the Oval Office going, hey, old man, ixnay on the end date may, because we're going to lose a lot of Erkers way and a lot of Unny may. And for those of you that don't understand, they threatened Joe Biden and said, you have to exempt us from this mandate because we're going to lose a lot of money in union dues. And I guarantee there's other exceptions like that. Did you know, for example, that the Democratic lawmakers and the Democratic staffs of lawmakers, all federal employees who are working in the Congress and the Senate and wherever else, they are also exempt from these mandates. They don't have to get vaccinated. They don't have to get tested. So this goes right. And Ron DeSantis pointed out when he was in Congress, in addition to pushing term limits, he also pushed the 28th Amendment, which meant any law that Congress passes, they must also take part in, whether it's Obamacare, because Obamacare, they don't have Obamacare. They have their own really cool, really great healthcare plan. Obamacare is left for all of the little peons that put them in the positions of power in the first place. But Ron DeSantis is like, look, if you're in Congress, you should have to be governed by the same laws that you create. The fact that people aren't is insanity. But then again, it is Washington, D.C. we're talking about. And he asked about that. He's like, why is it that the Postal Service, why is it that these federal workers in Congress don't have to follow the same mandate.
They're exempting members of Congress and members of Congress's staffs. So how does that work? Can someone explain the science to me?
What is the science behind that, Dr. Fauci? How is it that vaccinations are mandatory for people, working in a Florida hospital or working in a large accounting firm in Texas or working in Oklahoma, maybe at an oil refinery? How is it that those people require vaccine mandates, but the post office and Nancy Pelosi's private staffers, they don't need to get vaccinated? They don't even need none of this affects them. Why is that? What's the scientific background behind that? What's the scientific explanation for that? There isn't one, because as we all know, none of this is based on science. And Ron DeSantis wanted to point that out once again as well.
Israel did a study. They said it was much, much more protective than the Pfizer vaccine was. Cleveland Clinic did a study, same thing. Every single credible study always shows that it provides good protection. And so that's just the reality. So I don't support mandates at all. But if you're doing mandate based off this, if you're really following science, you would acknowledge this natural immunity, and instead they ignore it and force somebody who already has protection to take a medical treatment they may not like. And so it's really about using government power control to mandate much more than it is about the underlying medical issues that are involved. And I think that is the perfect example of why. If you do not acknowledge that, you are not following science.
Right. And that is, you can't have it both ways. Dr. Fauci tried to skirt the issue the other day on CNN when Sanjay Gupta asked him about it. Said, hey, wait a minute, what about this study from Israel? And Dr. Fauci's like, we don't have any comment on that. We don't have any information yet. Something we need to take a look at. Take a look at. It's the Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic is a pretty gosh darn, I guarantee if the Cleveland Clinic came out with a study that said you must get vaccinated or you will grow gills and jump into the ocean and live your life as shark bait for the rest of your existence due to COVID, I guarantee that Cleveland Clinic study would be on the front page of every left-wing media organization, and Joe Biden would be quoting it in every speech that he gave from now until the end of his term. But that's not what the Cleveland Clinic said. The Cleveland Clinic said, hey, if you had COVID, it's actually you're probably safer than somebody who got the vaccine. And if you had COVID and you had the vaccine, you probably could run through walls and probably jump into volcanoes and not get burnt. There may not be, there's not scientific backing for that either. So I'm just saying that I'm just using it as an example. Don't go jump into a volcano and then when you get burned, say, well, Mark K told me to do it, because I ain't no doctor. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. But then Ron DeSantis got to the real meat of the issue, the heart of the matter, the constitutionality of Joe Biden's dictates and what he as governor and what everybody else should be doing and can be doing to fight back. And I'll play you those here in just a minute. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. Quick break. We'll be right back. This is the Mark K Show. My name is Mark K. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. It's a real quick check-in with Jeremy, who's calling in from Buffalo, and he works for the USPS. Jeremy, hi. How are you? Thanks so much for calling the Mark K Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
Hey, thanks.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing great, man, and congratulations on not being mandated to get a vaccine by the federal government, even though all other federal workers are. Congrats.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice.
Just a few of us are doing what we can to passively resist.
Yeah. So tell me about the USPS here. You, why do you think it is that you were exempt from this whole vaccine mandate for federal employees? Because there's a lot of you guys and gals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot of us. I think a lot of people would bow out from the Postal Service. They're having a hard enough time keeping people as it is. And if they mandated this, you're going to have a fair amount of early retirees and people that'll find something else to do.
Yeah, and that's a real. The USPS is a crucial vein in our United States system. If the USPS stops working, a lot of people are going to be hurt. A lot of businesses come to grinding to a halt. And I think I think you're right on the money. If there's like 500,000 postal employees, I would gander a huge number of those would quit, would find other work, would retire, as you pointed out, and that would cause a huge problem, a huge headache for everybody in the United States, and the finger could be pointed directly at Joe Biden. Jeremy, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you will resist the mandate should they come back and say, hey, now we're going to mandate all federal workers, including the USPS?
Yeah, I would resist as much as possible. I have no intention of getting that shot. Any way they cut it, I got other things I could do. It might be like rough for a minute, but everything always pans out in life. So
that's a great attitude. I'll tell you what, Jeremy, and here's the other thing too. You really only need to find work for about 2.5, 3 more years. And then everything will get back to normal. Hey, thanks so much for calling. We really appreciate it. And that's going to bleed over into other industries. It's not just the post office, but what you're going to see is you're going to see people who now work for large hotel chains, people who work for airlines, people who work for hospitals. That's already happening with hospitals. You have hospitals. Get this. You have hospitals in the middle of a pandemic firing people who are not getting vaccinated. Doesn't make any sense to me at all why you would fire hospital workers, people who are willing to come to work without a vaccine or without proving that they got vaccinated. Why would you fire those people if they've been working for years in a hospital, and now because Joe Biden arbitrarily is saying you've got to get this vaccination or you've got to let these people go, they're going to fire people? They're already understaffed. Healthcare workers are already exhausted. They're working. It's really, a lot of it is very, very, very strange. Paul in Shreveport, Louisiana. How you doing, Paul?
Good. How are you?
Oh, doing great. What's going on, Paul? What do you want to say?
I just got one question. If they have released the responsibility from these large pharmaceutical companies and the federal government for when people have adverse reactions to these vaccinations, and I know it's a small number, I think 1,600 so far, if I've heard it correctly, but seeing they're mandating it to these companies to now tell their employees to, are they going to give them the same immunity, or are these companies now also looking at lawsuits on top of the possible tax ramifications if they don't force the vaccinations on their employees?
I think that there's some kind, and I see what you're saying there, I think that there's some kind of threat from the Biden administration to these corporations. It's either made privately or, like you said, through the IRS. I think there may be some kind of retaliatory effort for companies that don't comply. In fact, I guarantee there will be. Similar to what you're seeing in New York City with these restaurant patrols, where they're telling restaurants, you've got to make sure your patrons are vaccinated. And then all of a sudden, the restaurants are like, I don't want to lose business. I don't want to turn somebody away because they don't have a vaccination card or a vax pass or proof of vaccination. I need to make money. I need to recoup the losses I've had from being shut down for a year and a half. So now the Democrats are sending out these restaurant, enforcement agents to go around and shut down restaurants who aren't complying or fine them, which is ridiculous. But yeah, there's going to be, if you're a company, if you have 100 employees or more, and you do the right thing and say, Joe Biden, you can take your vaccination mandate and you can shove it. If you have a company with more than 100 employees and you do the right thing and say, my employees are here to work, they're here to add to my bottom line, I pay them for that, I pay them for their time, for their effort, for their talent, but it is well beyond my reach to mandate that these people get a vaccination injected into their bodies and alter their physiology just so that they can come and push some papers around for 9 hours a day. It's beyond. I mean, any company that kowtows to that, really, I mean, they've got to really make some tough choices because they're doing it wrong. And they're going to lose employees as a result. And the other thing that people need to realize is this is going to end up in lawsuits and court cases and Supreme Court decisions. And do they want to put themselves in a position where they have ridiculous corporate mandates or federal mandates? They're losing workers. They're losing great, talented people to other companies and organizations that are competitors, that have more of a backbone and stand up to the government and say, that's stupid. We're going to do our thing. You stay out of our business. And then in 3 years, realize that there's going to be a new administration in town, or in 2 years, realize that there's going to be more Republicans in the Senate and the House, and they'll be able to stop all of this government overreach that Joe Biden keeps pushing out there because he just doesn't get his way, because people don't listen to him. You've got to think long term. This is not a short term game. The same companies that are putting forward these woke initiatives like Coca-Cola, like Delta Airlines, they push out these woke training seminars and the slideshows that say, pretend to be less white, go out on the internet. They are doing that as a knee-jerk reaction to what's happening today, and they're not thinking about their long-term survival. And that's a problem. But it's also a common problem. luckily, like I said, there's 10 bajillion jobs out there. So if you need to leave, you should be able to find work somewhere else. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. All right, coming up in just a minute, I forget, there's more Governor DeSantis. I'll play you what his plans are to make sure that we all know what our rights are, to stop Joe Biden from bastardizing the Constitution and just destroying your freedoms on a nationwide scale. Also, AOC could be the stupidest woman who ever lived. All that and more coming up. Stay tuned to The Mark Kaye Show. We'll be right back. This is The Mark Kaye Show. My name's Mark Kaye. 855-940-6275 is our number. 855-940-MARK. Welcome to everybody in Orlando listening on WDBO. We're so glad that you guys were able to make it. You haven't missed the interview with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez where the reporter said this.
Damn.
Yeah, well, that's coming up. Damn. Yeah. We'll tell you what the context is for that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez moment here in just a minute. First, though, back to our own Governor Ron DeSantis, who celebrates his birthday today. Yay. Woo! Happy birthday, Mr. Governor. We're very excited for you and yours. And we're very excited to have you here because you also were standing up to Joe Biden before anyone else did. In fact, I think this press conference was, he's always out there trying to make Florida great again, but then he's also got to make people realize Joe Biden cannot do the things that he's doing. These mandates that Joe Biden's putting forward, quick reminder.
This is not constitutional, what he's doing. Everyone in his administration for 9 months said they don't have the ability to do this, that shouldn't be mandated, and that includes Fauci has said that in the past.
Yeah, and now he's saying something totally different. But Ron DeSantis said this. He said, look, here's what we did in our state. I don't know what you guys do in your states, but here's what we did in our state.
The state of Florida passed a law this most recent legislative session, SB 2006, that did a lot of different things. It prevented private businesses from requiring proof of vaccination to just do normal things like go to a movie or go to a restaurant, vaccine passports, but that also applied to government agencies.
Yeah, so government agencies in the state of Florida cannot mandate that their employees, not just the people that use their services, which if it's a government agency is, everyone, but they mandated that their employees cannot allow vaccines to be required for employment, and there's a hefty penalty for that.
If a government agency in the state of Florida forces a vaccine as a condition to employment, that violates Florida law.
Right, and there's a massive fine, as we said, and that's a lot of people because Florida has a lot of people here, and they have a big bad government. They've got a lot of educators, they've got police officers, they've got municipal workers, you've got fish and wildlife. I mean, state employees at every level in pretty much every major city, and none of these organizations can mandate vaccination as a requirement for employment, or they get fined.
And you will face.
Oh, yeah, yikes. There were people that were very excited, by the way, about what he was going to say.
You will face a $5,000 fine for every single violation. And so if you look at places here in Alachua County, like the city of Gainesville, I mean, that's millions and millions of dollars potentially in fines. Orange County, many, many more than that.
Correct, because it's $5,000 per person. So if you run a municipality and you have, let's say, 1,000 employees, and then you mandate that they all get vaccines, you've now broken that law 1,000 times. And 1,000 times 5,000, Hannah, is what?
More money than I'm worth.
Okay. That is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, yeah. And so he's reminding everybody of that. He's saying that's what we do here. That's why Florida is a free state. The federal government, however, if you work for the federal government, Joe Biden's your guy. And he can mandate whatever he wants. And what he wants is for you to get vaccinated. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is no weekly testing option if you're a federal employee. There is no way for you to opt out of this anymore because Joe Biden said so. And that's going to cause not a lot of people to comply and just, okay, fine, I'll get the vax. It's going to cause a lot of people to retire, to move on, to move out of the public sector and more into the private sector.
At the end of the day, look, we did a lot in Florida to distribute access. And in December, when the Pfizer and all this stuff came out, I said we would work very hard. We'd prioritize our seniors, that we'd make it available for all, but mandatory for none. And that's been the policy that we've had from the beginning.
And the real issue here, and the reason Joe Biden hates Governor DeSantis so much, in fact, he mentioned him in his speech a couple times when he said this.
If they'll not help, if these governors won't help us beat the pandemic, I'll use my power as president to get them out of the way.
He has no power as president to get them out of the way. It's actually the other way around. The governors have the power to move the president out of the way. That's why it's the United States of America and not America made up of 50 little insignificant areas of land. It's the United States of America. The federal government is there to work for the states and not the other way around. So Joe Biden can't do anything about Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis can protect the people here in Florida, and that's what he aims to do. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is it that the governors in these states, in all these red states, why is it that Governor Stitt in Oklahoma, for example, or Governor Abbott in Texas, why is it that these people, why do they have to protect their citizens from the president of the United States? Isn't it the president's job to protect people from, other stuff that's bad? It is. But Joe Biden has become the disease. Joe Biden is now the disease, and all these red state governors are the vaccine, really. It's really kind of ironic. The disease that is eating away at American exceptionalism, at the American ideals, at the American Constitution, at the American way of life, at your American freedoms and individual liberties and your life and your liberty and your pursuit of happiness and everything that makes this country amazing, everything that makes this country desirable to everybody else. The reason people risk their lives to cross through South America and Mexico, the reason people risk their lives lashing trash together and floating across from Cuba, the reason people risk their lives trying to escape the Taliban and climb onto the outside of a plane as it takes off thousands of feet into the air to escape to the United States of America is because of all those reasons that Joe Biden is trying to put an end to. All those freedoms you have that everybody else wants, Joe Biden no longer wants you to have. He's no longer protecting you. He's now part of the problem. He's just as bad as any enemy that this country's ever had. He's just as bad as King George. He's just as bad as Vladimir Putin. He's just as bad as Gorbachev and Khrushchev and the Mussolini, Hitler, all of them. Anybody who's ever wished that the United States of America was less free and less economically viable and less secure than it is an enemy of this country. And that is Joe Biden in a nutshell. And the governors who are just supposed to be protecting their state find themselves now elevated to this new role of governor of such and such state, and also mini president who has to protect whatever part of the population they can from the actual president who's trying to destroy this country. It's really something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. Unfortunately, we are seeing it. Fortunately, here in Florida, we have Governor DeSantis to get in the way. In Oklahoma, you have Governor Stitt. In Ohio, you have, well, we won't mention Ohio. But well, you guys know what's going on there. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. Real quick, let's go to John. John is in Iowa. Hey, John, thanks so much for calling the Mark K Show. How are you?
Good. How you doing there, Hoss?
Oh, doing great, man. What's on your mind, John? What'd you want to say?
Well, the biggest thing that I see that would affect me personally is they try to mandate this on the truck drivers. And I'm not an over-the-road driver anymore. I'm a local guy. And if they try to mandate us, what are they going to do with these box stores and grocery stores that are just not going to have supplies? I mean,
yeah.
He's just shooting himself in his own foot.
Yeah, no, truckers aren't going to. I mean, first of all, if you're a trucker, you spend how many hours alone every day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
If we want to go down that road, that's a long conversation.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I don't understand the need for truckers to get forced vaccinations in order to do their job. I don't understand trucking companies having to force their individual employees to get jobs. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you're right, truckers would be the first to, put the brakes, so to, no pun intended, well, pun actually totally intended on that, on the American transportation system, and that would really cause a problem. In fact, I encourage it. I encourage anybody because that's the power you have. What Joe Biden doesn't want you to know is that you have a choice. He's telling your boss, hey, if you work for a company that has 100 or more employees, here's what Joe Biden's telling your boss, or here's what he's telling the Labor Department to tell your boss. You've got to tell your employees to get vaccinated. If they say no, you've got to make them get tested every week. And if they say no to that, I mean, what? Did Joe Biden come out and say fire them? No. But is that one of the alternatives? Could be. But then what happens? Your company all of a sudden is forced to fire you when they may want to keep you around because you do a good job and you help make them money. What if you're the number one salesperson in your company, but you don't want to get a vaccine for whatever reason, nobody's business but your own? Or what if you have the vaccine, but you don't want to prove it to anybody because, again, none ya business. And you go to your boss one day and they say, hey, you got to either get the vaccine or take this test every day. You're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave. And then they've lost their number one salesperson because of Joe Biden. Not because they blew a sale, not because the company was in dire straits, none of that. Because of an arbitrary, stupid, unscientific mandate that Joe Biden put on your company because he screwed up Afghanistan and he's trying to do at least one thing right instead of everything wrong. It's really kind of but that's the choice you have. You have the choice of complying or not. And Joe Biden doesn't want you to know that. Truckers ain't going to comply. The USPS, they weren't going to comply, and Joe Biden knew that going into it, which is why they have exemptions. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. Let's take a quick break. Coming up, we'll get some more of your phone calls, because we have a lot of great questions. We got a lot of great people lined up. We're going to talk to you in just a minute. On the way, I have to tell you about AOC at this Met Gala, because it is everything that is wrong with the Democrat Party. It is hypocrisy on display for all to see. And it makes for some great memes. Plus, Hannah Hickox will be bringing you hideous and horrific history. And we've got some trivia. We have so much still to do and so little time to do it in. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. Quick break. We'll be right back. This is the Mark K Show. My name is Mark K. 855-940-6275. 855-940-MARK. We're going to get to your phone calls here in just a minute. One thing I did want to mention about Joe Biden, and what Joe Biden doesn't realize, is that the majority of Americans are smarter than he is. The majority of Americans, he thinks he's smart. He's not. He's one of the least smart people ever. And what we realize is when we start seeing, tax laws go into effect where they tax you at 40%, and then all of a sudden, the reason Joe Biden wants to tax everybody at 40% is because rich people don't pay taxes. And he thinks that if he changes the tax law, all of a sudden rich people are going to give in. They're going to be like, oh, you got me, Joe, changing that tax law for the 20th time in the past 3 decades. I'm just going to go ahead and write you 40% of my income and turn it in for taxes. That's not what they do. They have people right now. They're called accountants. And they're figuring out ways to save their clients money by skirting whatever ridiculous tax law you come up with next. And the rich are never going to pay the 40% in taxes. The people that are going to pay are the people that can't afford the wily accountants. And it's all legal. It's all on the up and up. It's just that people in the United States of America use their creativity, and they are more creative than you. They are smarter than you. And we know this because, well, they're not in public service. But the other thing that happens is people will find a way around whatever mandate. Biden's mandate, get this. This is an article from the Daily Beast. Biden's mandate has sparked price gouging for fake vaccination cards. It is clear to us that they're using current events to galvanize the market. Researchers at cybersecurity firm Checkpoint found when they looked at these vaccine passports, or vaccine cards rather, it just got more expensive to be an anti-vaxxer. In the days before President Joe Biden announced all private sector businesses with more than 100 employees would have to require their employees be fully vaccinated, fake vaccine cards cost approximately $100. The day after his announcement last week, fake vaccine card prices doubled to $200. They're peddling these bogus cards on the internet. There are more than 10,000 sellers. The number of subscribers in Telegram groups oriented towards fake vaccine cards has grown by multiples of 5x. It's clear to us they're using current events to galvanize the market. Now, fake vaccine cards are illegal. However, so is Joe Biden's mandate. So people are making a decision to, instead of going and get vaccinated and instead of quitting their job and getting their employers off their back, they're just going out and purchasing fake vaccine ID cards. My solution was to get copies of the original vaccine passport printed up because, the vaccine passport is already in New York City. They're trying it out in Europe. They're going to be bringing it to various parts of the United States of America. If you want to go see the Raiders play in their new stadium in Las Vegas, you're going to need some kind of vaccination passport or proof of vaccine. Several other places around the country are doing it already. Dr. Fauci wants you to have a vaccine passport to get on an airplane, and that's just the beginning. What most people don't realize is you already have a vaccine passport. The original vaccine passport, AKA the Constitution of the United States of America. It's got everything you need. It's been around since 1791. And what we've done is we've packaged up the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, all the other amendments, everything you need into one convenient pocket passport called the Original Vaccine Passport. Because the Founding Fathers, they had you covered. They knew this day would come. They didn't know about COVID-19. They didn't know about the Wuhan flu. They didn't know anything about Dr. Fauci, but they had a pretty good inkling that sometime down the road, some tyrannical, demonic dictator dressed as a Democrat would roll on into the White House and use whatever excuse they could come up with to try to snatch power away from the states and try to snatch power away from its citizens. So they wrote up this brilliant document called the U.S. Constitution, and they added the U.S. Bill of Rights, and they've had it. It's there for you to, maybe you haven't read it, maybe you need to refamiliarize yourself with it, or maybe somebody that you know and work with needs it. Maybe you go somewhere and they say, I need to see your vaccination passport, and you would love to have a copy of the Constitution to shove in their face and say, here you go, Jack, step aside. Well, now we've made it easy. If you would like your copy of the Original Vaccine Passport circa 1791, just go to originalvaccinepassport.com. Spelled the way it sounds. 855-940-MARK is our number. This is James in St. Augustine. James, thanks so much for calling the Mark K Show. Thanks for listening to WOKV 104.5. What's on your mind? What's your question, sir? Good talk. Good talk. Good talk. Good talk. 855-940-6275. Let's go to, Josh is giving me the wrap it up sign. Is it time for another break?
It could be time for a break.
All right.
I'm just joking. It's totally time for a break.
Why don't we take a break? Why don't we, James, hang on one second. We'll talk to you here in just a minute. Also on the way, don't forget, we've got Hannah Hickox's, Hideous and Horrific History with Hannah Hickox. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. All that and more on The Mark K Show. This is the Mark K Show. My name is Mark K. 855-940-MARK is our number, 855-940-6275. By the way, just got an email from First Lady of the state of Florida, Casey DeSantis, which I'm going to share with you right now. It says, Mark, Governor DeSantis' birthday is today. He has done so much to defend our liberty and protect our freedom. And, I think this is just a fundraising email. Sign your name here. Oh, yeah. All right.
Sounds like spam.
What, do you think she was inviting you over for brunch?
I mean, I wrote to her and I was like, hey, let's get the president to be on the phone for his birthday and we'll celebrate. And we will, officially induct him into the League of Extraordinary Governors.
Uh-huh.
We were going to maybe sing some song, maybe sing Happy Birthday, Mr. Governor. So, Marilyn Monroe style.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, maybe.
Have you practiced?
How's your whistle? Happy birthday.
All right,
No.
You know what her email sounded like?
What?
The responses that your Facebook auto generates.
Oh, yeah, probably. Probably a little bit like that. Only that I don't ask people for money. But, doing a whispery voice is really easy. Joe Biden does it all the time. Get vaccinated. Yeah. 855. No, but seriously, I did write. I don't know if you know that people don't know this, but Casey Black and I go way back. She worked here in Jacksonville at a news station, and it was not the news station that our company owns, a different one. And I used to go over there once every couple of weeks to do an on-air bit. And because I worked for the competing company, nobody there would talk to me except for her.
Oh.
And she would come up and she'd see me in the lobby. She'd be like, oh my God, hi Mark, how are you? I'm like, oh great, how you doing? Very nice lady. And then she married Ron DeSantis and became, First Lady of the state of Florida. So our careers clearly not in line anymore. But back then she used to also respond to my email. Anyway, we'll get him on the show eventually. And we will give him his plaque, his induction into the League of Extraordinary Governors, wish him a happy birthday, and again, thank him for everything he's doing, which is protecting us from Joe Biden. 855-940-6275. All right, let's go back to the phones because a lot of people have a lot of things to say about a lot of stuff. James is in Springfield, Ohio. He's listening on WHIO. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for asking. What's on your mind, James? What do you want to say today?
Well, it depends on how much time you got. First off, we already know Biden can't keep his word. I mean, he started off with the pipeline, proving that.
Yeah.
Second off, I'm sitting with a Biden voter right now who I'm sure you love your vote, right? Not anymore.
Not anymore. And that happens to a lot of Biden voters. Biden voters probably, and I'm not saying that there's never been a person where somebody has voted for, and all of a sudden, one day you wake up, you go, why did I vote for that? I mean, it's happening with Gavin Newsom right now in California. but I don't think it's ever happened this quickly. Usually it takes a good 2 to 3 years, maybe when the next election cycle rolls around, you start realizing, why did I vote for this guy? He doesn't do anything. But it's been 7 months, and you've got Biden voters that are already feeling this regret, this tinge of buyer's remorse. And I'm sorry, folks, there's nothing you can do about it. You guys screwed it up for the rest of us, and now you've got to suffer just like we do for the next 41 months. 855-940-6275. This is Israel in California. How you doing, Israel?
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. What's on your mind? What do you want to say today?
Hey, first of all, I have to tell you that you, Hannah, and Josh, man, are a highlight of my day.
Wow.
Every day for the last 3 years. I was in an accident, and, man, you guys are one of the things I kept looking forward and kept waking me up with all your positive energy and your factual information. And I really appreciate you all.
Well, listen, Israel, we are so happy to hear that we were able to keep you going, and that makes us feel good. That's all we ever try to do is be factual and positive. And sometimes it's tough, but we're here. How are you doing now? Are you getting better?
You know what? The Lord's working. It's all on the God's timing, brother.
Yeah. No, that is true. That is true. Well, listen, we're here for you as long as you need us.
I appreciate it. What I wanted to say is, this whole thing about Biden and everything, all the crazy stuff he's doing, my old job, I did a lot of value stream mapping, a lot of root cause analysis.
Okay.
And all this boils down to is him and Kamala destroying our country. And even this vaccine mandate that he's doing, it's illegal. He hasn't even put it on the books yet. But the businesses are firing people,
Yeah.
And the whole point behind that is so these people he's trying to get more and more people to start becoming dependent on the government.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Is just ruining the country, ruining people's lives, making them dependent on the government, trying to distract everybody from the failures of the Kamala Harris administration. And I don't think the American spirit is alive and strong, and
Sure.
There's no way to let that happen.
Israel, first of all, you're 100% right about that, and let's look at the timing let's just look at the timing for just a minute, because Joe Biden, we all know, we've heard the clip. I'm not going to play you the clips, but you've heard the clips where Joe Biden said there will not be mandates. Mandates are not the way to go. You've heard Kamala Harris say mandates are not good. You've heard Dr. Fauci say I don't think we need mandates. Mandates are, first of all. Dr. Fauci, a constitutional scholar that he is, he once pointed out it's unconstitutional. You can't enforce them. And also we don't need them. But now look at the timing. Look at the big switch. What is it that changed? What is it that Israel just pointed out? He said, look, he's trying to make everyone dependent on the government. He wants everyone looking to the government for handouts and for money and for schooling and for healthcare and for their own survival. And he doesn't really care if you work or not. But what happened last week? Do you remember? Two things happened in the last couple of weeks. First of all, the Supreme Court finally, for good, knocked out that eviction moratorium. And all of a sudden now, Joe Biden can't keep you in your home anymore. The government can't force your landlord not to evict you. So you're going to be hitting the streets. The second thing that happened is that all of those ridiculously generous long-term unemployment benefits ended. They came to an end. And now people are going to have to go back to work because they're going to get thrown out of their homes, and they're not going to be able to pay their bills because they're not going to be getting as much unemployment as they were during the pandemic. And so Joe Biden needs to figure out, as you pointed out, a way to keep people dependent on the government. And all of a sudden, when those two things happened, when Joe Biden started losing his grip on financial control of people, when people started going out there and getting jobs because they lost their unemployment benefits, or going out there and getting jobs because they knew that now they could be evicted from their homes if they didn't finally pay back their rent payments so that their landlords could pay their mortgage. When that happened, Joe Biden came up with a new solution, a 180 to Don't believe what the Joe Biden from 6-7 months ago that said no mandates. Don't believe the Dr. Fauci that said mandates are unconstitutional. Now we need them. Why? Because we need people getting fired. We need people quitting. We need people suckling on the government teat as long as possible. And I think that Israel has hit the nail right on the head. That Joe Biden, everything he does is an effort to expand the government. Everything he does, whether he's expanding the government in size or in personal dependence on the government, anything he can do to make it bigger is a good thing. Hey, thanks so much for the call, Israel. And again, like I said, we appreciate you listening to us every day. We're glad we can bring a smile to your face. We'll keep doing it as long as, well, probably not as long as you need us, but as long as they let us do it. Until one day the door's locked. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. Matt is in Pennsylvania. Hi, Matt. How are you? Thanks so much for calling the Mark K Show.
Hi, Mark. Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, doing great, Matt. What's on your mind, sir? What'd you want to say?
Well, I'm a truck driver. I live in Eaton, Ohio, but I'm over in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay.
I was listening to the local driver chime in. I've seen numerous posts and whatnot that they were going to make us truck drivers get the vaccine.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it. My company is a big supplier of the plastic that makes the medical mask, the partitions between you and a customer.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. And, if my boss says, look, you got to get the vaccine or we're going to have to let you go, you know what? I found a job when I found this one. There's plenty of trucking companies out there looking for people. There's plenty of employers, period.
Sure.
I grew up in the trucking industry. It's what I love. It's what I do. But ain't nobody going to tell me I have to take this in my opinion, poison from the government.
And Matt, and listen, and we appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of people in your shoes, especially when you look at the job. Truck driving is a very important job. It's super important. You need truck drivers. Very few people actually nowadays are like, man, I want to go do that. I want to go drive on the highway all the time alone. I mean, to me, it sounds amazing. But to other people, they're like, that just doesn't seem like my life's work. It's very difficult to find good, quality people that want to do this job. And it's essential to America running and operating smoothly. And if you have truck drivers leave, you have to really stop and think, is it necessary? These truck drivers aren't driving trucks through NICUs. They're not driving trucks through old folks' homes. They're not dealing with people that have potential comorbidities. They're alone in a cab. Sometimes they stop at the restaurant and they talk to other truckers. They go to the bathroom. I don't know. Man, I don't know what you guys do at the rest stop. But that's the thing. They come and they unload, they sign some papers, and they're back on the road. They're grinding those gears up and down the highway so you and I can get bread and milk and electronics and iPhones and Amazon Prime deliveries. That's what they're doing. It's a thankless job, and it's not one where I feel like you are at risk of infecting a whole heck of a lot of people. So why mandate that somebody in that position who spends most of their day in solitude get a vaccine? There's absolutely no scientific basis for it. There's no need for it. And I agree with you 100%. I agree with anybody who says, I would rather quit my job or take early retirement or go work somewhere else than take a vaccine simply because Joe Biden told my boss to make me do it. 855-940-MARK is our number. All right, we got to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up right after this, one of our favorite news segments, Hideous and Horrific History with Hannah Hickox. If you've never heard it, don't go anywhere because you don't want to miss this. It's coming up right after this. This is the Mark K Show. My name is Mark K. 855-940-MARK is our number. 855-940-6275. Thanks so much for joining us. On the way, still, I have to talk about AOC and her stupidity. Oh, that rhymed. And we'll tell you what she did at the big Met Gala last night. But first, ladies and gentlemen, one of our new favorite segments.
Attention. It's now time for Hideous and Horrific History with Hannah Hickox. Listen or suffer the consequences.
That's
all
me.
right, that's you. That's exactly right. This is where we turn the show over to our own Hannah Hickox, who's a fan and a historian of horrendous and hideous historical facts. And for the last couple weeks, she's been sharing them during the show. Hannah, are you ready to go with today's hideous and horrific history?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take it away, Hannah Hickox.
Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're gonna excuse me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, you. Come on. Listen.
Sorry.
Listen, that's
pretty hideous.
That's
pretty hideous.
That's a different. Speak for yourself.
We're going to talk about Genghis Khan.
We're going to talk about Genghis Khan. Okay, all right.
Yes, about Genghis Khan, and apparently his name was actually pronounced Chenghis Khan.
That is horrible.
So horrible. Anyway, okay, so I want to talk about all the crazy different things he did during torture. I know that sounds really sick, but
man.
He was insane. So during his reign, as a result of him, he had about 40 million people killed, which was like 10% of the Earth's population at that point.
Was he an asteroid? Because I know that's what wiped out the dinosaurs.
Oh, the dinosaurs, yeah.
Yeah. That was half of him was.
Okay, all right. So he killed a lot of people.
Yeah, he killed a ton of people.
Did he kill them in hideous and horrific ways?
Yeah. So let me get to that. I'm getting there.
All right, let's get there
so
faster.
he didn't believe in shedding any blood of royals. He just didn't believe in that. So here's some of the ways that he would do it. So if he liked them, he would just snap their neck really quickly, you know?
If he was like killing a buddy.
An honorable buddy.
It's an honorable way to kill someone.
Yeah. Oh, you're such a good guy. I'm just going to break your neck.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was the nice way. But another option was suffocating them and then beheading them.
Yeah.
And then one time, he captured a Russian force. Just listen to this. He laid huge slabs of wood on top of them and then put them on top of them while they were still alive. And then he proceeded to have his army, like have a party on top of them. So it just crushed them, and that's how they died.
Oh, so they were like the dance floor.
Yeah, they were essentially the dance
Oh,
floor.
no.
So go ahead.
That was a Russian royal, you said? A Russian prince?
Yeah, it said a Russian force.
A Russian force.
There
Like
were
an
royals
royal,
in
yeah.
there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he laid the Russians down, put wood on top of them, and then played jump around, and everyone was jumping up and jump around.
Jump around.
I mean, essentially. And
Yeah.
then, other ways that he would kill people, he would have them boiled alive. He would tie a rope.
Did he eat them?
Huh?
Did he eat them after
No,
boiling
he
them?
wasn't a cannibal.
Oh, sorry,
What
so
kind of
humane.
person would do
He's so
he
humane.
wasn't that horrible.
Jeez.
It's not Hannibal Lecter. It's Genghis Khan.
I read that he also rolled somebody up in a rug and had him suffocated that way.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought, pretty sick. But then this is the real kicker for me, and it's a kicker because he died. Get it? Kicker.
Kicked the can?
He kicked the can.
Oh.
So he died, and he had 30,000 people that attended his funeral. But
Wait, Genghis Khan died?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he died, and they don't know exactly how he died. It's not recorded. But when he died, he had like 30,000 people go to his funeral. But he wanted to keep the burial site protected and private. So he had all 30,000 people that visited his funeral killed by the army. And then the army were killed by like his right-hand men that were in control of his funeral. So they all killed the people from the army that killed the people at the funeral, and then they killed themselves so that there would be no record of where his body is located.
Wow. So we don't know where his body is.
Yeah, we don't. Well, we know kind of where it is,
But not specifically.
Yeah.
All right. So it worked.
Yeah, so it worked. They still can't find it to this day. They've tried to, because they're apparently he's buried with wealth and gold and stuff, and they still can't find him. Man. Oh, he also killed his brother when he was 13. Because
Why? He lost a game of thumb war?
Nope, he had caught a fish, and his brother stole it from him, and so he just picked up his bow and arrow and shot him in the chest.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Did he eat the fish?
Yeah, of course he did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so he eats fish, but not humans.
All
Got
right.
it.
Is that it?
One more.
Oh, one more real quick.
wow.
Yeah.
So he, again, he conquered a lot of land about the size of Africa. Is about the amount that he conquered. So one of the people one of the leaders of the land he conquered, he poured molten silver into their eyes and ears.
Oh, wow.
As a torture method.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was torture method. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a gift.
Yeah, it wasn't like, here's some more wealth for your family.
Here's some silver,
Yeah, here's
but
some
you're
earrings.
blind and deaf.
That was very good. That was
Yeah.
nice.
There we
Nicely
go.
done. Oh, wait, hold on. I could pump the volume back up. Ready?
Tune in next
There we
time
go.
for more hideous and horrific history with Hannah Hickox. And until then, we'll see you in hell.
Yeah, very nice. Very